My name is Mateo. I was born in a small village. The roads were broken. The dreams were few. My father died young in a work accident, and my mother raised me with hands full of pain. She worked every day washing clothes for others, baking bread to sell, always smiling for me. We were poor, really poor. Not just in money, but in chances and hope. As a child, I saw her hands bleed, her back bend low, her eyes grow tired. But she never stopped, never complained, just held my face and said, "You will be better." I remember nights without food, just warm tea, a hug, and stories she told to help me sleep. I didn't know what comfort meant, but I knew what love looked like. At 18, I told her, "Mama, I need to go, not to escape, but to come back stronger." She didn't cry in front of me, just gave me her scarf and kissed my forehead with silence. She said, "Be good, stay kind, and never forget your name or your mother." I left that night, heart shaking, pockets empty, head full of fire. I took old buses, then trucks, crossed borders in the dark, paid what little I had. Some men lied to me, some stole from me, but I kept walking, kept believing. I slept under bridges, ate from trash bins, and held my notebook close to my heart. In that notebook I wrote, "For my mother, for her smile, for our future." When I reached New York, I had nothing, just my name and my dream. I slept in an old train station. Cold nights, loud streets, no one to talk to. But I told myself each day, "You came for her. Don't give up now." I asked for work anywhere, and someone said, "Wash dishes. Start tonight." That first job saved me, gave me food, gave me a place to stand. I worked quietly, cleaned well, smiled at everyone, learned fast. Then I got another job cleaning offices, then a third at night in a warehouse. I worked 3 jobs, slept few hours, and sent all the money home. My mother didn't know how hard it was. I didn't tell her. She sent me voice messages. "Mateo, don't forget to rest. Eat well. Be safe." I always replied, "As long as you eat warm meals, I'm happy." Her voice was my light, my reason to keep going. I didn't buy new clothes, didn't go out, didn't waste a dollar. Every coin I saved, every dollar I earned had a name, Isabel. People laughed sometimes. "Why don't you live your life?" But I had no time for comfort. Not yet. Not before I gave back. In the mornings, I read books, learned English slowly, word by word. I watched videos, practiced in mirrors, repeated every word like a prayer. I told myself, "Your mouth will speak like them. Your mind will grow strong." And I believed it because my mother believed in me first. One night, I passed by a small store. It was closed, windows dusty, shelves empty. I heard 2 men talk. The owner gave up. No more customers, no more money. I stood there for a long time thinking, dreaming, imagining myself inside that store. My heart beat fast. My hands shook. But a voice said, "Why not you?" I asked the landlord. I begged a little, explained my plan, showed my savings. He looked at me, surprised. "You don't even speak perfect English," he said. But he saw my eyes. tired, but serious. He gave me one chance, 1 month rent. I cleaned it all, painted the walls, fixed the lights, arranged every shelf. I didn't have much, just some vegetables, some bread, some rice and beans. But I smiled to every person, said, "Thank you, please, and come again." At first, no one came. I waited long hours reading my notebook in silence. Then one woman stopped, asked, "Do you have tomatoes?" I said, "Yes, ma'am," gave her the best ones, added a little gift. She smiled, told her neighbor. Then another neighbor came, and then more. Word spread slowly. The store guy is kind, his food is fresh, prices are fair. And just like that, Mateo's Market became a name people liked. Every night I cleaned alone, mopped the floor, counted coins, wrote in my book. Today I sold 5 apples. One old man gave me his blessing. Tomorrow I will wake up early, make it better, stronger, cleaner. It wasn't just a shop. It was my proof, my name, my hope. I still worked my other jobs, didn't stop them yet. I needed every dollar. Some nights I slept 2 hours, other nights none. My body ached, my eyes burned. But I told myself, your pain is your seed. Your future is growing underground. And I believed it because I saw my life change day by day. After 1 year, I had enough to rent a second place on the other side of town. This time, I hired one helper, a young man like me, new in the city, alone. He reminded me of myself. So I told him, "Be honest, be kind, and you will grow." He said, "Thank you, sir." But I said, "I'm not, sir. I'm Mateo, just like you." People kept coming, not because of fancy signs, but because of simple hearts. We helped old women carry bags, gave kids free fruit, said good morning to everyone. We didn't just sell food, we gave respect, smiles, and small moments of peace. And people feel that. They remember that. They come back for that. I kept sending money to my mother. More now, enough for her to stop working. She cried in her messages. I sit and think of you. I pray for your bones. I sent her pictures of the store, of the shelves, of the sign with my name. She said, "You gave my name value. You made it a flag, a light." On Sundays, I sat alone in the back thinking of the boy I was. I remembered the bridges, the hunger, the voices that told me, "You won't make it." But I also remembered the scarf, the kiss, and the fire in my chest. And I said quietly, "Mama, I am building something strong. I am almost ready." Years passed. I opened a third store, then a small food truck, then a little office. I hired more people, not because I wanted to grow fast, but to help others walk like me. Most of them were like I was, broken English, broken dreams, full hearts. I told each one, work with truth, respect others, and never forget your why. My name was not big, not famous, not in newspapers or TV, but it meant something. It meant hard work, honesty, kindness, and a boy who came from nothing. Sometimes I sat in the park, watched kids run, and whispered, "I made it." But in my heart, I knew I didn't make it alone. My mother made me. At night, I still listen to her old messages saved in my phone. Her voice gave me strength, made me feel warm, reminded me who I am. I wrote again in my notebook, "One day I will go home, but not empty." And that day came, with quiet feet and a full heart. I waited many years, worked in silence, saved every dollar, counted every step. Every night I dreamed of her face, her voice, her hands, her warm bread. My heart stayed in that small village, even while my feet walked New York streets. I told myself, "One day, Mateo, you will go home with your head high." I didn't want to return with empty hands or sad stories or broken dreams. I wanted to bring her peace, pride, and the life she never had. She gave everything for me, her time, her health, her love, her strength. So I gave my youth to work, to grow, to build something with her name. One morning I looked in the mirror. Older now, lines on my face, gray in my beard. I smiled and whispered, "Now, Mateo, it's time. Your home is waiting." I closed my stores for a week, packed a small bag. Not much, just love. I bought a ticket, didn't tell her, wanted it to be a gift, a surprise. The plane flew over mountains, over rivers, over memories. I cried quietly, thinking of the boy who left hungry, scared, full of fire. Now he returns full of stories, scars, and hope. And he is still the same boy, just older, wiser, stronger. I arrived in the village at night. Air was warm, sky was full of stars. The streets were still dusty, the light still dim, but it felt beautiful. Every tree, every wall, every sound felt like it called my name. I walked slowly, heart racing, hands shaking, eyes wet. I stood at the gate of our house. Same small door, same stone steps. I knocked once, twice, and then heard her voice from inside. "Who is it?" she asked, tired, soft, like music from a dream. I said, "Mama, it's me, Mateo." The door opened slowly, and there she was, smaller now, older, gentle. Her eyes saw me. Her hands covered her mouth. Her knees almost fell. I ran and caught her, held her like a baby, kissed her forehead many times. We both cried, no words, just heartbeats, just tears, just love. She said, "My son, I prayed for this day every night." I said, "Mama, I came back full. I came back for you." She touched my face, my beard, my hands, as if I was a dream. I took out photos of the stores, the team, the trucks, the signs. She looked and smiled, a deep, proud smile, and said, "This is enough." We sat all night. No sleep, just stories, tea, and memories. I told her about the cold nights, the empty belly, the station floor. She told me about her lonely evenings, her silent prayers, her hope. The next day, neighbors came, eyes wide, mouths open. "Mateo is back," they said. "He came home. He made it." Some shook my hand. Some hugged me. Some cried quietly. They saw a man, but remembered a hungry boy who left with nothing. I walked around the village, saw the old school, the river, the market. I bought candy from the same man. He smiled. "Still remember your favorite." I sat by the old tree. the one I used to climb, now big and strong like me. And I said, "Thank you to the wind, to the earth, to the past." That week, I fixed our roof, painted the walls, bought her a new bed. I gave small gifts to kids, helped neighbors carry wood, shared my story, not to show off, not to brag, but to say, it's possible. You can rise. They listened, their eyes wide, their hearts open, their minds dreaming. On the last night, I sat with her under the stars, her hand in mine. She said, "You gave me more than money. You gave me peace." I said, "You gave me everything first." I just returned the favor. She smiled, kissed my hand, and said, "I can rest now. My son is home." I promised her I would visit every year, that the boy in me will never forget. She said, "Even if you never return." This week gave me a lifetime of joy. I looked at her, at our small house, and said, "This was my palace all along." And in my heart, I felt complete, like a circle had closed with love. Back in New York, I hung her picture in my office beside a simple quote. It said, "Great men don't forget small beginnings." Every morning I look at it, smile, and start my day with a full heart. Because Mateo didn't become great, he became grateful. I returned to New York, but something had changed inside me forever. I saw the streets, the lights, the noise, but my soul stayed in the village. I was not just working for myself anymore. I was working for something bigger, for my mother, for my roots, for others like me who had dreams but no doors. I looked at my store and thought, this can be more. It can help more people. I hired workers from poor areas, people like me, tired but full of fire. I didn't ask for diplomas or perfect English. I asked for heart, effort, loyalty. They came with shaking hands, quiet voices, but eyes full of hope. Every new hire was a story. Every story was a mirror of mine. A woman who escaped violence, a man who slept in his car, a boy with no parents. I saw myself in them and I said, "You're not alone, not anymore." We built not just a company but a family, made of pain, hope, and second chances. Every week, I sat with my workers not as a boss, but as a brother. We shared food, laughed, cried, prayed, dreamed out loud without fear. I listened to their worries, gave advice when I could, just stayed present. Because sometimes presence is more powerful than money or words. The stores grew, but I never forgot the cold nights on train floors. So I started a small program, free meals every Sunday for the homeless. We cooked, packed, and delivered with care. No cameras, no fame, just warm food, warm words, warm hands, shared by people who once had none. We helped a man find a job, a girl return to school, a mother get a safe home. And each time, I remembered my mama saying, "Do good even if it's small." I felt her in every kind act, every tear of joy, every thank you whispered. She was my guide, my light, even from far away, even when she slept. One winter, I returned to the village again, this time with a small team. I showed them where I was born, the roads I walked, the school I left early. We gave out supplies, books, medicine, blankets, hugs, stories. The kids looked at us like we were magic, but I told them we were you once. We set up a small learning center named after my father, who died working, a place for kids to read, play, dream, and grow without fear. The walls were painted bright, the floors clean, the shelves full of books. On the door we wrote, "Enter with dreams, leave with strength." The village changed slowly, one brick at a time, one child at a time. We trained young people in farming, in business, in hope. Some stayed to help their families. Some left to chase their dreams. And I said, whatever you do, never forget your name, your soil. Back in the city, people started asking about my story, my past, my path. I was invited to speak at schools, churches, community halls. At first I said no. I was shy, not used to crowds or microphones. But one day I stood up and said, if my story can help one soul, I'll tell it. I shared my journey, from hunger to hope, from silence to voice. People listened, cried, stood up, and clapped. Not for me, but for what's possible. They didn't see a hero. They saw a mirror of their own struggle and strength, and I said, you don't need a perfect start. You need a reason to keep going. I kept giving, kept growing, kept remembering. My team became my family. My stores became homes. My life became a message. One day, a young boy came to me and said, I want to be like you. I smiled and said, be better than me, and help someone else too. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, quiet, lights low, heart full. I took out my mother's old scarf, the one she gave me when I left. I held it close and whispered, I hope I made you proud, Mama. And deep in my soul, I felt her smile. Warm, soft, full of love. I knew the journey was not over, that giving never ends, that love keeps moving. And I was ready for more, for bigger dreams, for new hands to hold, because I was no longer just Mateo, the boy who left. I was Mateo, the man who came back, and gave back, and kept going. The years passed, but I didn't feel old. I felt more alive than ever. Every morning I woke up, I thanked life. I thanked the struggle. I thanked my mother. Because every drop of sweat, every tear, every lonely night built this life. And now I was standing tall. But I never forgot to kneel and pray. I started writing again in the same notebook I brought from the village. I wrote about hunger, about hope, about a boy with nothing but dreams. I wrote for the ones who never had a voice, who lived in silence, who felt small. And each page carried my story, but also their story, our shared fire. One publisher read my notes and said, let's make this a book. I said, yes, not for money, but for memory, for truth, for legacy. We called it From Dirt Roads to Dreams, a name born from my journey. And when it was printed, I sent the first copy to my village school. The book traveled to places I never saw, touched hearts I never met. People wrote letters thanking me, saying it gave them courage to try. A teacher in Brazil used it in class. A girl in Egypt drew my story in pictures. I smiled and cried, knowing my small voice became many voices everywhere. My company had grown, with new branches, new faces, new hearts. But the mission never changed. Give hope, give work, give dignity. We started a foundation in my mother's name for single mothers and poor children. We gave scholarships, medical help, food, but mostly we gave attention. I visited small towns, sat on plastic chairs, drank tea with old people. I listened. I didn't promise too much, but I showed up again and again. They said, "You're not like the others. You don't forget." And I said, "How can I forget the soil that grew me?" One cold December, I flew back home, for good this time, to stay. The city had given me much, but now it was time to give everything back. I bought a small house near the school with a garden and a wide porch. I planted the same tree my father once planted and watched it rise. I visited my father's grave, laid flowers, spoke softly, just me and the wind. I told him, "Your son did okay. I hope I made you proud. I hope I kept your name clean." I sat there for hours watching the sky change colors, feeling peace. For the first time in my life, I felt full, not from food, but from meaning. Young people started coming to my house, not to ask for money, but for advice. They asked how to begin, how to endure, how to dream when the world is hard. I told them, "Start small, work hard, stay honest, don't quit." And I looked in their eyes and saw the same fire I once had. One girl wanted to be a doctor but had no money for school. We paid her tuition, and years later she returned as the village's first female doctor. A boy who sold oranges is now a lawyer helping people who can't afford help. Each success felt like a seed I planted, now growing in strong soil. I opened a small museum in the village full of photos, letters, tools, stories. It wasn't about me. It was about the journey of us all, the forgotten, the brave. Visitors came from cities, schools, even other countries to see the place. And every time they asked, "Who is Mateo?" I said, "Just a son of the soil." I still woke up early, drank my tea, watched the sunrise from the porch. I still wore simple clothes, still walked to the market, still smiled at neighbors. Fame never changed me, because pain had shaped me deeper than praise ever could, and I never let success make me forget the cold of sleeping on the floor. One day, a big journalist came and said, "You're a hero." I laughed, shook my head, and said, "No, I'm just someone who didn't stop." She asked what made me strong. I said, "My mother's voice and my hunger for dignity." She smiled and said, "Then maybe that's what a hero really is." I grew old slowly, not with weakness, but with peace. I watched the kids grow, the town grow. The light returned to eyes that had lost it. I knew one day I would leave, like all people do, like my father did. But I also knew I would leave something behind. Not money, not buildings, but a way a way to fight without hate, to give without pride, to rise without stepping on others, a way to remember where you come from, even when the world takes you far, a way to stay soft, even when life is hard, to stay kind, even when the world is cruel. And I hope that even after I'm gone, that way would still shine. So when I finally closed my eyes on a quiet morning with birds singing, I smiled. Because I knew I came with nothing, but I gave everything. And maybe, just maybe, I made the world a little better for someone. And that is more than enough for any man, for any name, for any soul,